All right, so let's dive into this. Men have always wanted to know what women really want.
Yeah, since the beginning of time, probably.
And today, we're not going to solve all the mysteries.
No.
But we are going to get some insights. We're going to look at some things women wish men understood better.
Right.
And we've got a couple of interesting sources. We've got a popular YouTube video from a relationship advice channel.
Okay.
And a blog post from a marriage and family therapist. Two very different perspectives.
And they have some surprisingly similar themes.
They really do. So the YouTube video starts off strong. It talks about intimacy. Well, not rushing intimacy. The YouTuber talks about the ick.
The ick, yeah.
That instant turnoff.
Yeah.
When a guy comes on too strong sexually.
Especially early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really tapping into, I think, a psychological principle of reward uncertainty. Basically, the idea is that anticipation, a little bit of mystery, increases desire.
Okay.
It's kind of like I think about it like a slow burning fire versus a quick burst of flame. Which one leaves a more lasting impression?
That's a good analogy. So instead of overwhelming someone with too much too soon, it's about building that tension and connection gradually.
Exactly. And it also ties into building trust. If things escalate too fast, it can feel overwhelming, like there's an imbalance. And that ick reaction is maybe like a signal that things are just moving too fast.
The YouTuber is not a fan of those pickup artist tactics.
No, she is not. No games whatsoever. In fact, she actually debunks a lot of that and is a champion for honest and direct communication.
Yeah, like waiting 3 days to text back. Forget about it.
She even gives a text message example. I had a nice time. Let me know when you make it home.
Simple, straightforward. No need to decode secret signals. I love it.
Right. And it's important to address, I think, the fear some men might have about seeming clingy by communicating that clearly.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, that shows maturity and confidence.
Yeah.
That you respect your time and the other person's time.
I love that. Plus, I'm all about efficiency, so playing games just seems like a waste of time and energy.
Totally.
Why not just be upfront and see if there's a real connection?
Honesty and authenticity go a long way.
Yeah. And speaking of things that matter in a relationship, both of our sources emphasize the importance of safety and security for women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not just in that traditional financial provider way.
It goes so much deeper than that, yeah.
They both really dive into what safety actually means to women on different levels.
It's multifaceted, right? It's not just about money. It's about emotional security.
Okay.
It's about physical safety. And then, yes, financial stability, all kind of intertwined.
The blog post has some really specific examples of what makes women feel physically safe.
Right.
Like walking on the outside of the sidewalk, closer to the street.
You know, those little gestures can speak volumes. It conveys a sense of awareness, protectiveness, consideration for her well-being. I mean, studies have shown that those nonverbal cues really impact a woman's sense of security and trust.
Wow. So it's kind of like saying, I've got your back, without saying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, when it comes to financial stability, the YouTuber says it's not about being a millionaire.
No.
She says it's more about responsibility.
Right.
Being able to manage your finances and plan for the future.
Right.
So it's not about the dollar amount.
Right.
But the mindset and habits.
It's about being capable and responsible.
I like that distinction.
Yeah.
Now, this brings us to another interesting point from the blog post. Chivalry. It's not dead after all.
Right. She shares this really sweet story about her husband opening the car door for her and how much that simple gesture means to her.
It's not just her, though. I think a lot of women still appreciate those chivalrous acts. It's not about being old-fashioned. It's about courtesy and respect.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were talking about, those nonverbal cues, those small gestures. They're symbolic expressions of care and consideration. They might seem little on the surface, but they can have a huge impact on how someone feels.
Makes you wonder if in our rush to redefine gender roles, we've lost sight of some of those thoughtful gestures.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, while we should be sensitive to individual preferences, I think the point here is that thoughtful gestures really matter.
Yeah, I agree. And all of this ties into the blog post's call for a more nuanced view of masculinity.
Right.
One that embraces sensitivity, empathy, emotional depth.
Yeah. She's not a fan of the meathead stereotype of masculinity. She really champions a more well-rounded perspective that values emotional intelligence just as much as physical strength.
It's so different than the image she painted earlier in the post of those guys at the pool talking about women like they're cuts of meat.
Yeah, like at a deli counter.
Right.
And it highlights how limiting those stereotypes are, not just for women, for men as well. It boxes people in.
It keeps them from expressing their full humanity.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing we're complex individuals, not just walking gender stereotypes.
Speaking of recognizing complexity, both sources touch on the importance of leadership and initiative, particularly in the context of dating.
Yes.
The YouTuber tells this funny story about her friend being impressed by a guy simply making a dinner reservation.
Right. Such a low bar.
You'd be surprised how many guys don't clear it.
I know. And it's not just about reservations.
Yeah.
It's about taking the lead, whether it's planning a date, making a decision, or even just initiating a conversation.
Right.
It shows confidence and direction.
Right. But not in a controlling way. It's more like, I've got this and I want to share this experience with you.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of security, a little adventure, without being overbearing or domineering. But the YouTuber is also careful to say, it shouldn't be a one-way street.
Absolutely.
It needs to be reciprocal. Both people should be putting in effort.
Right. Healthy relationships are built on mutual effort and contribution. Both partners willing to take the lead, invest in the relationship.
Wow, this deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. It's amazing what we can learn from just two sources.
I know, right? It just shows the power of really diving in.
We uncovered some really interesting things about communication and relationships.
Yeah.
And what women truly value. I feel like I have a whole new perspective.
That's great.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's been my pleasure.
I know our listeners are going to love this conversation.
I hope so. And I hope they feel empowered to start these conversations and really explore these topics in their own lives.
Yeah, and remember, the journey to understanding each other better is an ongoing one. So keep those conversations going, keep learning, keep growing. Until next time, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.